Hi, my name is Kris Villarino, and in this video, I will teach you basic video editing on Adobe Premiere in 10 easy steps. But before we proceed, consider subscribing to my channel for weekly tips or tutorials on video editing, filmmaking, and content creation. I'm using Adobe Premiere CC 2019, but this tutorial should apply to even older versions of Adobe Premiere. So let's get started. Step 1, create a new project. And that should be very easy because that new project button is all you need to click. And that should bring up the new project panel. Type in your own project name, or you can follow mine. Click Browse and save your project anywhere you want. Click Choose, click OK, and that should open up a new project. The second step is to import footage. At this point, I will assume you have footage already saved and ready to edit in your computer. Click File on the menu bar on top. Go down and you'll find Import. Click on that. Look for your footage in your computer. Note that you can import one clip or multiple clips. Click Import and you should find all of your footage on what is called the Projects panel. Step 3. Create a new sequence. Go to the bottom right of your project panel and you will find an icon that says New Item. So click on that and click on Sequence. So assuming you shot your footage on a DSLR camera, let's use digital SLR and choose 1080p. Note that the frame rates on my clips are mostly 23.976 with 1920 by 1080 resolution. And for that, I will use DSLR 1080p 24. So that should create a new sequence, which you will find in the project panel. You can change the sequence name by clicking on that and typing in your preferred sequence name. The sequence should already be open in the timeline. If it's not open, you can double click that in the projects panel and it should open up that sequence on the timeline. So let's go to step 4, which is to review and to select shots. When you're editing, you will have to watch all your footage one by one to review and make selections. So double click on a clip and that should appear on your source monitor. The source monitor is where you review all of your clips individually. To make a shot selection, review your clip and find a good end point or starting point. Click that button where it says Mark In and that should be your end point. Play the clip again and stop where you want to cut. Click the Mark Out button. You have now made your first shot selection. Drag that over to the timeline and now you've made your first edit. Do the same with all of your clips until you've made a basic assembly of all the shots you need on the timeline. And that should lead us to step 5, which is editing. The timeline is where the actual editing is done. Notice that there are 3 tracks on top named V1, V2, V3. These are called video tracks where you will edit your video. Below that are the audio tracks. You can add more video or audio tracks as needed. This bar right here, you can use that to scan through an edit, especially if you have a longer edit. You can also use it to zoom in and out of the timeline. So what we have here is a basic edit. You can actually move these shots wherever you want in the timeline. If you find a shot too long, you can click on the edge and trim that. You can trim that from the beginning. You can shorten a shot or extend a shot if you want to bring back some more of that footage. You can play that back. Just press play right here on the program monitor, which will show you everything that you're working on in the timeline. This line right here, this is the playhead. Everything it passes on, you will see in real time on the program monitor. Be careful when you move shots around. You might accidentally cut out parts of other shots. It should still be there, but just be careful because you might end up messing up your edit. Before I forget, you're actually using a tool called the selection tool. And you're actually going to use that more often. The next tool you should learn is called the razor tool. And there's a few more tools here in the toolbox, but for this tutorial, I think these are what you need to know for you to start editing right away. So select the razor tool and you should see a razor icon. If you go to any of the clips with the razor tool, you'll see a line. That'll be your guide to make a cut. So let's make a cut here. And if you want, you can delete that part of the shot that you cut. You can also make a cut and move that to somewhere else in your edit. Basically, what I'm doing is the process of editing, where you put together your visual story using different shots, cutting out the bits that you feel don't help in moving the story along. One important thing you need to know about the timeline is that you will only see on the program monitor whatever is on top. So if you have a stack of shots on several video tracks, unless you've applied some effects, which we will get to later, you will only see the topmost shot. Step number 6 is using the effect controls. If you double click a shot on the timeline, that will bring it up to the source monitor. On the tab right beside that is the effect controls. You can change the position, move your shot horizontally or vertically. Click reset to change that back. You can also change the size using scale by clicking and dragging or by typing in a specific number or value. This is also useful if you want to resize a shot, especially if you're using 4K but you're editing on 1920 by 1080. Which means you have a lot of resolution to scale up a shot. You can also animate by clicking the stopwatches beside it to toggle animation. So if you want that to slowly scale down, click that and it will create a keyframe right here, which now becomes the start point of the animation. If you move this, as you can see, it also moves the playhead right here on the timeline. So find a good stopping point and type 100 so that it will scale down from 150% to 100%. But since it messed up the position, as you can see on the program monitor, you will need to animate the position as well. So let's go back to the beginning and click the stopwatch beside position to create a keyframe there. Move the playhead where the animation stops and reset the shot. You can reset the shot manually. You can also click this reset button right here. So if we play that back, we now have a shot that's zooming out. And if we move the keyframe, it should change the speed of the animation. And you can do the same thing with other parameters. We can try opacity. The stopwatch beside opacity is usually already activated, so we're just going to add a keyframe. But we're going to start at 0. And so the clip has now disappeared. And then we're going to move to another point in the timeline. Type 100. So now that shot is going to fade in. Now we're going to do the same thing to the shots on top. But you don't want to go past where there's nothing below it because that's just going to be black. Type 100% and now that shot should fade in. Step 7 on my list is transition. Now if you click these arrows right here, you will find an item that says effects. Now this is where you'll find all the effects and transitions for both video and audio. What we're looking for is video transitions, and we're going to use cross dissolve in the dissolve folder. Pick cross dissolve, click and drag that to a cut in your edit. If you put that right in between, that should create a very common dissolve transition from one shot to the next. We can also change that to dip to black. So it's going to fade out of the first shot and fade back into the next shot. And you can play with the many transitions here like cube spin, page peel or page turn, and a whole lot more. You can even highlight the transition and edit that on effect controls. You can also click and drag from the edges, and you can change the speed of the transition if you want it to go slower or faster. Step 8 is video effects on the same effects panel. And you'll see a bunch of effects here: adjust, blur and sharpen, color correction, stylize, many more. Let's try some basic color correction. These shots can use some contrast. So let's increase the brightness on that just a little bit and then increase the contrast. Now let's do the same with the rest of the clips. And you know what? If we click on any effect, and in this case, brightness and contrast, we can right click and select copy and go to another clip, right click on the effect controls panel and just click paste. And it should apply that, except that I still need to adjust that shot. And I can even highlight 3 clips at once, click edit and paste, and it should apply the same. Step 9 is adding titles. Now to add titles, you will need to go into another type of workspace, go to Window, Workspaces, and what we're looking for is titles, so click that. So we're now in the titles workspace. Go to the program monitor, and right beside that is a tab that says title. And this is where we will type our text. So click on this button right here, new title based on current title. You can type in whatever you want to call it. Click OK, and once you do that, you'll see the basic title item on your projects panel. So whenever you need to make changes on that text, this is where you will now go back to. So now to create the title, just click on the frame, type whatever text you want to write. If you don't like that font, you can go to the top where you can actually change your font. You can also change the font size, alignment. I'll center align that. To your right, you'll find 4 panels here where you can also make more detailed changes to your text. You can also move the title around. So from there, let's go back to the original workspace we were using. In the project panel, that's where you will find that basic title that we just made. So drag that into the timeline wherever you want it. You can trim that or move that around. And you can also add transitions the same way we add transitions on any shot. So for the final step, if you're done with your edit, you will need to export that into a separate clip, which will be the file that you will want to upload to your social media or YouTube or share with your friends or your client. So move your playhead to the beginning of your edit. On the program monitor, click Mark In. Then just drag your playhead right to the end of your edit, and then go back to Program Monitor and click Mark Out. This way, Adobe Premiere will only export your selected edit. So now go to File, Export Media, and that will bring up Export Settings panel. If you're familiar with codecs, you might want to use whatever is best for you, but for our purposes, let's use H.264. For preset, there's a bunch of presets here that we can choose from. Some of them specific to YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook, and many more. But we're going to stick to match source high bitrate. Make sure that you name the file properly, so we click output name. When you're done, go ahead and save that. And if everything's ready, click export, and then we wait. And we're done. So let's go to Finder, and look for that clip where we saved it. Open that up and there you go. So those are the 10 basic video editing steps on Adobe Premiere. If you like this video and found it useful, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and click that notification bell for weekly updates. My name is Kris Villarino, and I'll see you again soon.